On the Paper Talk today, we'll be looking at just how close are Manchester United to new owners, and could the new owners come from the Middle East? We'll also be having a little chat about the World Cup final as well. Lisandro Martinez didn't get on. I'm a bit disappointed, but he's still a World Cup winner, and commiserations to Rafael Varane. And we've got some transfer rumours. It looks like the door's not closed on Frenkie de Jong. Let's get into it. Jay here from Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford. It is pretty cold, it's pretty drab, but I've just been walking very fast because there was an issue with the tram, which I won't bore you with. So I have got my parker over there. If you are going to go out today, make sure you put your parkers on because it's pretty cold. We're going to get into it. There's loads to talk about: the World Cup final, transfers, ownership, all that jazz. But make sure, first of all, you are subscribing to the channel. We want to get to 700,000 subscribers by the end of the season, and with your support, yes, we can do it. Don't forget as well to go and check out the membership section, extra content on there, and we've got the 12 days of Paddock where you can win prizes including 500 quid. And finally, final plug before we get into it, we've got our live event coming up on the 30th of December in Dublin with all us lot and Brian McClare, so come and pay us a visit if you can get over to Dublin in the new year. Anyway, let's get into all these stories. It's the morning after the night before the greatest I was going to say FA Cup final, World Cup final in history, according to some, many, all of us, some of us. What do you reckon? It was pretty impressive, wasn't it? At the end of the day, Argentina winning the World Cup, Lionel Messi, of course, lifting that coveted trophy. Lisandro Martinez, who didn't get on in the final, was a bit gutted for him, but he is a World Cup winner. Big commiserations, though, to Rafael Varane. Varane did go off with what looked like a bit of an injury. We'll have an update on that later on today. There isn't anything as yet. It didn't look too serious. It may even been a little bit of fatigue, but yeah, commiserations to Rafael. But he's already got one, hasn't he? So it's nice that Martinez has got one as well now. We'll get into some of the stories. We've got some transfer stories and update as well on the Glazer Sale of this club. Hopefully a sale anyway, rather than just getting in some more money and keeping the controls. It looks like a sale could be on the cards, and also it may even be happening with someone from the Middle East. So I'll get into that anyway. Let's start with a transfer story. This one was doing the rounds over the weekend, and it said Manchester United open to making second moves for Frenkie de Jong and Jude Bellingham. This was in the Manchester Evening News. It says that apparently Erik is a massive fan of Jude Bellingham, and if he could sign anyone, it would be Jude Bellingham, and United haven't closed the door on trying to go back in for Frenkie de Jong. We almost signed him in the summer. It looked like we were going to. At one point, the fee was agreed. It was going to be around sort of 70 million, rising to around 85 million, I think. There was a stumbling block with his deferred wages at Barcelona, and he ended up staying at the Nou Camp. But according to reports, there could still be some traction there, could still be some movement, and Manchester United could be back in for Jude Bellingham in the summer. Could be back in for Frenkie de Jong in the summer. And also looking at Jude Bellingham. The Jude Bellingham story seems to be more of we want him rather than he's going to come here, which a lot of clubs wanted him. There's meant to be interest from Chelsea, Real Madrid, Liverpool. We almost signed him, I should say, in 2020, I think it was, when we showed him around Carrington. Didn't happen. There is still a relationship with Jude Bellingham's family and Manchester United. Could that open the door to something? We'll have to wait and see. But I think the Bellingham one is looking less likely than the Frenkie de Jong one. So we'll keep you posted if any of those come to fruition. Also, Manchester United are on alert for Dusan Vlahović, according to reports. Now, this has come from Corriere dello Sport. It's been picked up by other newspapers, other publications as well. And it says that Manchester United are monitoring the situation of Vlahović over, obviously, in Juventus. He's had there's a bit of an issue going on with Juventus at the minute. Anything's up in the air there, and according to reports, he could be available for a transfer. He cost Juve 66.6 million, 666, the sign of the devil, in January 2021. But their own financial problems could force them to cash in on the striker after 12 months or next summer. So maybe even something happening in January there. Someone to keep an eye on. United are on alert. Juventus could be up for selling him. He's obviously a very talented striker. He's played so many games, only 22, isn't he? And he's been playing like football, like professional football, since he was like 16. I was looking at his stats. I think he's played over like 100 odd games, and he's like 22 years old. I thought, how does that work out? But yeah, he's been playing for a very young age. He broke a lot of records when he was making his debut, scoring those early goals as the youngest player to do so. So whatever happens with that, as always, we'll have you covered. Now, this is a story in the Athletic, and this broke I think yesterday, and this is said from David Ornstein, so it's very reliable. Manchester United co-owner Avram Grant holds talks with potential investors in Qatar. Now, we know that Did I say Avram Grant there? I always call him Avram Grant. I don't know what is up with me. Avram Grant's the guy that masterminded Chelsea to lose in that final against us. Well, it wasn't really his fault, was it? It's more John Terry moving the penalty order. But that's a different story. Avram Glazer, right? Okay, right. Held talks with potential investors in Qatar. Now, we know Avram Glazer was over in Qatar. There was pictures of him. We had this story last week about the fact, I think he was at one of the semi-finals. I think it was the France-Morocco semi-final. Now, according to Ornstein, he says Manchester United co-owner Avram Glazer has held talks with potential investors during his trip to Doha for the World Cup, including from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Now, the situation with both Saudi Arabia and Qatar is a bit funny one, because there's this sort of talk that, well, look at Saudi Arabia, for example, even though it's the public investment fund or whatever it's called, the private investment fund, I forget what it's called, which is meant to be this company that isn't the government. We all know it's the government that own Newcastle United. So they can't technically buy another club. Now, there's this sort of, well, okay, that doesn't mean that someone from that country couldn't. Same with the Qataris. I think they own clubs. I think they own PSG, don't they? Or one of the clubs, I forget. So it's like, well, they couldn't buy another club. But again, someone from Qatar, a private citizen, could. Now, I've not got anything against that, if that's the case. If that's not just some sort of shenanigans going on and then going, yeah, you put your name on this, but actually we'll run it. There's nothing wrong with a private citizen from the Middle East owning a club. What I don't want is this club to be owned by a government as part of a sports washing enterprise. We've seen a lot of sports washing over the last 6 weeks. Let's have it right. It has been going rife over in Qatar. Yes, the World Cup and the football is fantastic, but a lot of it was like, let's just ignore all this sort of, horrible behaviour that's going on here and focus on the football. That's the definition of sports washing. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Rain Group, who brokered the deal for Chelsea to be sold in the summer, they're looking after it. And obviously we had that quote from Avram Glazer, if you can call it that, just saying the process is proceeding and it is a process or something like that. We'll keep you posted as well, but there's talk that the private sector from the Middle East could come in for Manchester United. There's a lot of wealth in that area, and if that is the case, then that could not only buy Manchester United, but hopefully fund some of the issues that need funding. The ground needs redeveloping, if not rebuilding. The training ground, there's still a lot of investment needed in the squad as well. So if it is a private investment from those countries, that's fair enough. There's nothing wrong with that. If it is one of those sovereign states, then you have to question that. Well, I do anyway. On the outgoings, West Ham are keen on a loan move for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's played just 4 minutes, I think, this season under Erik ten Hag, not counting the friendlies, of course, could be on a move on his way out into January, and West Ham are after him. So that kind of makes sense, that West Ham coming in for Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Still a young lad, still got a lot to offer, had a good start to his United career, not been so great since. So, Vlahović, De Jong, Bellingham, new owners, it's all happening. Make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, we've got our event coming up on the 30th of December. Me, McCullough, Howson, Smith and Brian McClare in Dublin on the 30th of December, having our first ever live event at Stretford Paddock. So make sure you check it out. Go and check out as well the 12 days of Paddock over on the members section. We're giving away prizes over the 12 days of Christmas, which starts, I think, on Christmas Eve. Yeah, and the big prize is 500 quid. So go and check out that. There's also extra vids and extra content on the members section. I've been Motty outside a pretty wet and windy Old Trafford. Thanks for watching.